Most people think what broke them was a moment, a betrayal, a failure, a season that went wrong. But what if the real damage didn't happen outside of you at all? What if the prison was built quietly, thought by thought? There are people who survive terrible things and still walk in peace. And there are people whose lives look fine on the surface, yet their minds never rest. Because pain doesn't need to stay loud to stay powerful. Sometimes it just keeps talking. You didn't arrive here randomly. There are nights you've laid awake, body exhausted, mind wide open. Moments when you prayed, but your thoughts answered louder than God's promises. Moments when you wondered why you trust Him with your future, but not with your own mind. Today isn't about information. It's about exposure. Because once something hidden is revealed, it can no longer rule you. There was a man named Eliab. To everyone who knew him, he was steady, reliable, spiritually grounded. He showed up. He served. He spoke kindly. He did all the right things. But when the noise of the day faded, his mind turned against him. Not with dramatic thoughts, with familiar ones. You should be further by now. Why do you always fall back into the same patterns? God is patient, but even patience has limits. You're disappointing Him again. Eliab loved God deeply. He read the scriptures. He prayed sincerely. Yet his thoughts felt like a courtroom where he was always the accused and never defended. He didn't understand it. Why does my faith feel strong, but my mind feels enslaved? One evening, overwhelmed and restless, Eliab walked beyond the city gates to clear his head. The sky was dim, the road quiet. That's when he noticed an old shepherd sitting near the path, calmly mending a torn cloak. As Eliab passed, the man spoke without looking up. "Your spirit is willing, but your thoughts are crowded." Eliab stopped. "How would you know that?" he asked cautiously. The shepherd finally looked up and said, "Because peace leaves fingerprints. And your mind doesn't have them." Those words cut deeper than accusation ever could. Eliab sat down. "I pray," he said. "I believe. So why does my mind still feel like a war zone?" The shepherd nodded slowly. "Because belief doesn't automatically evict lies. And truth unspoken cannot replace what's been repeated." Then he said something Eliab would never forget. "You don't suffer from lack of faith. You suffer from unchallenged thoughts." That night changed everything. Eliab realized something painful but freeing. Not every thought in his mind deserved a seat there. Some thoughts were planted by fear. Some were leftovers from old wounds. Some were lies that survived simply because no one ever confronted them. Scripture suddenly sounded different. "For as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Not as he hopes. Not as he prays once in a while. As he thinks." The battlefield was clear now. Many of you listening are like Eliab. You are not weak. You are not faithless. You are not broken beyond repair. But your mind has been occupied by voices God never sent. Thoughts that accuse instead of correct. Thoughts that condemn instead of guide. Thoughts that feel logical, but leave you empty. And the danger isn't that they arrive. The danger is that they stay. Scripture says we demolish strongholds by taking thoughts captive, not negotiating with them, not explaining them, not tolerating them. A thought that pulls you away from God's character is not wisdom. It's sabotage. The enemy doesn't need to ruin your life outwardly if he can quietly distort how you see yourself inwardly. That's why peace feels distant. Not because God stopped speaking, but because your mind is overcrowded. Here's what renewal actually looks like. First, awareness. You stop pretending every thought is neutral. You ask, does this thought draw me closer to God or further from Him? Second, replacement. Truth is not passive. It must be spoken. When your mind says, "You'll never change," truth responds, He who began a good work in me will complete it. When your mind says, God is tired of you, truth answers, His mercies are new every morning. Third repetition, because your brain listens to what you rehearse. Science calls it rewiring. Scripture calls it renewing. Transformation isn't instant because pathways weren't built in a day, but they can be rebuilt with discipline and grace. Fourth, environment. What you constantly consume eventually speaks back to you. Not everything sinful is loud. Some distractions just keep your soul restless. Guard your atmosphere. Peace needs space to grow. Fifth, precise prayer. Not vague requests. Specific surrender. God, I release this fear. I give you this memory. I renounce this lie. Healing begins where honesty stops hiding. And finally, persistence. Freedom is not proven by one good day. It's proven when you keep choosing truth on hard ones. Romans tells us not to be conformed, but transformed by renewing the mind. Not managing it. Not coping with it. Renewing it. Your mind was never meant to be a storage room for shame. It was meant to be a dwelling place for truth. And the moment you stop agreeing with lies, they start losing authority. You may still hear old voices, but they won't sound convincing anymore. Because now, something stronger lives there. This is your turning point. Not because you felt something emotional, but because you understood something essential. Your thoughts are not harmless, but they are changeable. And God is not asking you to fight alone. He is inviting you to think differently, with Him. From this day forward, don't just exist. Live awake. Think like someone who has been rescued. Stand like someone who has been renewed. Your mind is no longer open territory. It is sacred ground. And what God renews, He protects.